Shawna, I know that you know who our guest is today, and anybody that's in the fitness industry will definitely know who our guest is. And even if you're not in the fitness industry, chances are you have been impacted by our guest today because she has trained your trainer, your Pilates instructor, your yoga at some point in this realm of fitness.
We are so excited to invite Leslee Bender on our podcast, 2020's Idea Personal Trainer of the Year. She has multiple awards and accolades, and she is a fitness icon with 40 plus years of experience. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the Girls Talk Healthy Aging podcast, where we dive deep into pressing health and fitness issues facing aging women. I'm Alli Kerr.
And I'm Shawna Kaminski. And together we'll bring candid conversations, expert advice, and personal stories that will inspire and empower you on your own wellness journey. Leslee, we are so thrilled to have you on the Girls Talk Healthy Aging podcast. Welcome.
Thank you.
And Leslee, we are wanting to pick your brain today and help our gals that are listening about just learning about from you lessons that you've learned, and you've been in the fitness industry. So tell us a little bit about the fitness industry as far as for you, how that has evolved over time that you've been in the industry.
Well, again, thank you so much for having me. I'm always honored to be on these webinars. I've been in the industry, gosh, for like 4 decades now. So now I'm, showing you how long I've had a passion that has led to my purpose to be in this industry. And I, like everyone, became incredibly addicted to the high intensity, high impact, sweat dripping, hardcore workouts, because really that's all we had 30 years ago or so. And now I see our industry the evolution of our industry is exponential. There's so many changes happening in our industry, which I'm sure you're going to ask me about.
I'm curious as to how your own personal fitness journey has evolved over the years, from your 30s doing the hard pounding hit, sweat dripping. What are you doing now?
Well, for me, it's really changed. And those of you that are listening that are in your 40s, 50s, or even 60s, or maybe even older, is to really step back and reevaluate, why are you doing what you're doing? And our industry is very brilliant on saying this is how you do a movement, for example, but we don't really go into detail on the why. And again, when we started in this industry, it was as hard as you could possibly go, which of course leads to, adrenal fatigue, injuries, etc. And because of the way I used to, train, it landed me a knee replacement in 2018. So if, anyone is having any kind of like knee, back, or any kind of red flags, if you will, is to truly listen to them. And where I've shifted dramatically is more of the mind body approach and what is functional, what allows me to go do what I love to do, like go skiing this afternoon, or to go horseback riding, or to go play pickleball, or all the other activities that we have to look at in our industry. What does some exercise programs and how do they actually translate to daily activities? For example, back in the day, we'd say, "Ooh, squeeze your booty." Well, that doesn't translate to any kind of functional movement. And I find that so much of what we are still doing in the industry is going to lead to major orthopedic issues for both women and men in the future, because back then we didn't know any better, to be honest with you. I mean, we didn't have yoga, we didn't do Tai Chi, we didn't do foam rolling, we didn't do self care. But now, because of the aging population, think about it, we have accessibility to all these different types of wellness and fitness, which in my opinion, everybody should be doing, because if you're not adding in restoration and restorative modality of training, you're going to go down the rabbit hole. It's inevitable. And very few people that I know that have been doing it as long as I have, very few people I know that have not had injuries, from shoulder replacements, knee replacements, hip replacements, etc. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think of course, if we use our bodies more and we have been doing pounding things, we're going to have, there may be a higher risk of joint injuries. But then there's also the part of aging. I mean, and just that is, our body does wear down. And so can you speak to that as just changes you've noticed throughout those decades, for yourself or other women, of just the natural process that our bodies go through?
Well, yeah, and I think probably for the women that are listening to this is obviously doing some kind of exercises that does keep your bone density. That's crucial, for osteoporosis, osteoarthritis, et cetera, et cetera. And I feel like once again is yes, those changes are going to happen, but you embrace them and you shift. Here's an example. 20 years ago, I wouldn't think twice about going down the hardest runs up at our local ski resort. Thankfully, they're not covered in snow yet. But now I go up with, and I don't even care if I ski a beginner run. I'm just happy to be out, to be on the snow, to be with my friends. And we have to sit back and go, all right, maybe I wasn't doing the hard stuff that I was doing 30 years ago, but I can still have fun doing what my body says I can do today. And that, from maybe going as hard as you possibly could in a spin class 20 years ago, and now you're just like, I can't crank it out as hard, but I still love the music. I'm still doing something good for my body. And I think if we have that mental shift, that it's okay to be where you are right now. And yes, those changes are going to happen. Can we slow the process down? Absolutely. Keep moving. Nutrition. We've all heard it. But that's a choice and that's discipline, don't you think?
I think that that's brilliant in, the concept of like, let's still do it, but let's weigh the risk reward, because you could do the black diamond runs on the hill and be out, your first run out, and then you miss the entire season. And I've been similar in how I've modified training where I feel like I'm still doing, great fun training, but I have weighed the risk reward to include a bit more longevity. So I've picked and chosen the skills that I want to continue with, weighing them against the risk of injury, because while we can still do some of those, really intense things, ability to recover from injury, that is slower. We don't bounce back as quickly. We can, but I just don't want to risk that. And I don't want to miss out on, I wouldn't want to miss out on a whole season of skiing just because I have one, exhilarating run. I'm like you. I can have an exhilarating run on a green or a blue run, and just the perspective of being out there and moving. And I think that that's part of the issue, is that it's a all or nothing for some people. I'm doing the black run or I'm not going. And I would prefer to say all or something. Let's do something so that we're still moving.
Absolutely. And I think that it we all have one. Is sometimes you've just got to tell your ego, you know what? I'm not going to listen to you right now. I know you're telling me to do A, but I'm going to choose to do B. And I think those of us that are in the fitness industry, we're in it for a reason. Obviously, we truly love helping other people, but we also are very, very motivated ourselves to do the things that we want to do and be a role model for others that might be thinking about doing things. And I feel like that's so important. Once again, we as women is to be able to allow women to, like I said, be okay where you are, stop comparing yourself to someone else, and be able to enjoy what you enjoy doing. And and taking on a new task like learning how to play pickleball. I mean, I had a blast doing it. Was I any good at it? Not particularly, but I had fun. And I think we're losing the fun factor in so many instances in things that should keep us active and happy. I'm not successful, I'm not good enough, et cetera, versus I'm willing to learn and I'm going to do the best I can.
and willing to be a beginner. And when you said comparing to other people, I think one of the biggest issues that women have is that we compare ourselves to our former self. We look in the mirror and compare ourselves to who we used to be rather than comparing ourselves to the new and improved version of yourself at an older age, which is
Exactly.
perfectly fine and acceptable. And holding yourself to your 30-year-old standard is unfair, and you will always come up as a loser. As I'm always talking to my clients about how, remember when you look back at 30 and you hated your body then? Now you wish, oh my gosh, I would do anything to look like I did when I was 30. Same thing applies when you're 50 or 60.
Well, and at the end of the day, we can't stop, the aging process. I mean, we're here for a very short amount of time on this planet, and how we view life. You know those people that you run into, and they're always bubbly. They always seem like they're happy, and they don't age. And if you've ever watched The Blue Zone, I think it's one of the best documentaries that's out there, and it truly emphasizes life. And these people are not worried about how they look in a bikini. They're not in the gym killing themselves, they're living. And I think we're missing that component in our life is what brings you joy, and what brings you joy brings you happiness, and it keeps you young. But if we're focused on the negative things that are happening in our lives, and don't get me wrong, we all have challenges, but challengers are thrown at you for solutions.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm hoping that those that are listening just take a moment to sit back, and maybe you make a list, and I try to do it regularly, are the things that you're grateful for. And it doesn't necessarily mean material things, but being grateful to garden, being grateful to go for a walk. And I think when we focus on more gratitude, that, wow, my body did get me out and go do a spin class today. I'm grateful for that. I feel great, and I teach that in when I'm coaching my clients is be happy where you are. Well, you said you don't feel all that great today, then let's not push it. And I think that's the sign of a seasoned trainer is you look at your client and say, "How are you feeling today?" Well, I ate too much or I drank too much because it's the holidays and I don't feel that great. Some trainer might say to that person, "Yeah, I'm going to beat the crap out of you today because you were bad." Now we're reinforcing negative behavior rather than saying, "Let's do something that makes you feel good today." And
Yeah.
if you're stronger in the next couple days, we'll go for it. But today, because that's what leads us to injury. But we have a tendency to think of this, you know, self punishment that, oh, I was bad. I had, a couple cookies last night. I got to kill myself today, and we've got to get away from that mindset.
Absolutely.
And Leslie, you just talked about one mindset that we have of beating ourselves up when we feel like we've done something wrong. What are some of the other messages, especially that women are getting from, and maybe even from the fitness industry, and looking at the different time periods, maybe in our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond now, later on, what are those different messages that are women getting, maybe versus even men, that are
Well,
helpful or harmful?
I think we can sort of blame that on social media. And some of the programs that are out there that are again focused more on the external versus the internal. I mean, if your true goal was, okay, I like a younger woman is my goal is I want to look great for a wedding or to be in my wedding. That's a realistic goal. That's something that you want to achieve, or something like, I'm going on this hike or something like that. Like I've got a friend that next year is her goal. She's a cancer survivor to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. And I said to her, I said, Rhonda, you've got about 7 months. You live here in Reno. We're at what 6,000 feet here in Reno. You need to get up in the mountains and you need to start hiking now, and that is the type of training that is going to help you to achieve a very important and realistic goal, because so many times people, they set a superficial goal, um And then to me that again that isn't really positive reinforcement. And when we set those goals that are meaningful and they really are going to bring happiness into something that you want to achieve at any age, I think then we're being realistic. And I think it's very different per decade. So in other words, the 30-year-old or the 20-year-old might say, I want to get back into health after having my baby, as to where, somebody in their 50s and 60s now is saying, I want to play with my grandchild. So there's a big different set of goals from each category, but I think we have a tendency in our industry is to be so laser focused on like the younger goals versus, and then we have this big gap, if you will, of the active aging. And I'm not going to sit in a chair and do little handheld weights, you know. And so with that being said, I think that we have this huge gap, and maybe you guys agree with me that we're missing this category of women, let's say from 50, I'm going to go from 50 all the way up to 70, that are still insanely active. And I have yet to see a program that super exists for someone like that. Now, I do have a program. It's Ageless Training Academy, and it really is about living. However, I think that is something that, you see the active aging courses that are out there, like sit and be fit. Well, if you're sitting, you're not getting fit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? And so I think our industry really needs to step back and go, okay, I got a 60 something year old that wants to ski next year and she's recovering from a knee replacement. How am I going to train this person? They don't care how they're going to be in a bikini, but they don't care if they're squeezing their butt. They're looking at how can I strengthen my legs so that I can get back to something that I love to do.
Yeah, that is so true. And I'm a double hip replacement recipient,
Woo.
and the rehab and it's geared for very sedentary, non-active people. And I've been the Pied Piper of the broken hip since my recovery because I documented it. And I've had so many wonderful women reach out to me to say, hey, you did it differently. Like I'm getting a different message from my surgeons and from the medical community than what you seem to live. And first of all, it's like, no, I'm not a doctor, you listen to them, but you can create your own journey of rehabilitation and recovery, because your goal is not just to be able to walk to the mailbox. You want to get back into the weight room, get back onto the ski hill and do all the hiking, the biking, all the fun things. And I agree entirely that there's this big hole that as professionals we can start to address as well, because we are the ones that are in the industry as well.
Well, for example, I just saw a client and a friend of mine, and she is trucking around like nobody's business, and she's 30 days out of her knee replacement. You would never know it. And she goes, I think I'm ready to come back to Pilates. I'm like, absolutely. You know how to modify. You had your other knee done last year, and this year you are just killing it.
Yeah.
And you're going to be skiing again. And even if it's on the blues, who cares? You're out doing it. And I know myself, my doctor, when I had my knee done, the first thing he asked me is he said, what's your goal? And I said, I want to be on my water ski in 3 months. And I was on my ski in 3 months. And in 5 months, I was skiing back in a tournament. And, I was determined. I wasn't, and we're an anomaly because we are in this industry. And a lot of people struggle with any kind of joint replacement because it's invasive. But on the flip side, let us help you. Let us help you get your life back because you can do it. And let us help you get your life back from any trauma you've been through, whether it's emotional, whether it's physical, or whether it's both. Let us be a guiding light for you and, help you to achieve those goals because, that's why we're having this conversation right now is what can we do for you? How can we serve you?
And another big message that, I've met so many people that are just waiting. It's like, what are you waiting for? Like, you are as young as you're ever going to be today. So do something now. If you can't get into surgery, do prehab, do something rather than just continue to deteriorate and compensate and make things worse. So there are actions that you can take, whether it, like I know that not everyone can get into surgery right away if that's required or whatever the situation is, but there's always something you can do. And if you don't know what to do, then that is why there are people like us out there that are more than willing to, if we can't help, we're going to point you in the right direction.
Exactly.
And Leslie, what are some fitness tips? Maybe three top fitness tips for ladies that you have.
Top 3. Oh, all right. Okay, well, you might not expect this. Number 1, get enough rest. Sleep. Get your 8 hours in. It will help you to recover, have more energy, have better brain function, be happier. I guarantee it. I hear people all the time say, "Yeah, I get 4 hours of sleep every night." It'll run you down, and you'll wonder why you can't recover and enjoy. That's number 1. Get enough rest. Number 2, find something that you enjoy that does not create pain. Just because you're going to a bar class and you leave there in agonizing pain does not mean it's for you. Even if your girlfriends dragged you there, listen to your body. That's vital. Pick and choose what feels good. Number 3 is embrace who you are. So the way, you entered into this planet is who you are. And again, finding that activity that works for your body. For example, if you like to run, but your knees are hurting you, perhaps you should grab a bike if you like to be outside. If you're one of those people that loves to be outside and get cardio, get a bike. You're going to get the same caloric expenditure without sacrificing your joints, for example. Um, and if you like Zumba, but yet it's hurting your knees or it's hurting your back, try maybe Zumba Gold. It's still Zumba. I actually went through it. It was so much fun. Try Zumba Gold. Even if you're younger, it doesn't matter. It's still Zumba, but they've slowed the movements down so you can do it. So those are kind of my 3 takeaways is rest, embrace who you are and find an activity that you love, that you enjoy. And it doesn't have to be in a gym. It can be anywhere, anytime.
I really like the rest one because I think that, rest, sleep, it's the most underrated, most affordable, accessible opportunity that we have to improve our health and least utilized because women especially as they get into their 40s 50s and beyond are in this sandwich of possibly younger children or nieces and nephews, older parents, the sandwich generation, that there's not an ounce of time for women themselves. And what goes is their sleep. So prioritizing that self care with sleep and rest, and maybe not beating yourself up that you didn't get an hour workout in, but you got some good rest, that you are actually doing your body so much good, probably better than getting 4 hours of sleep and then an hour of like pounding in the gym. You're just going to just wear yourself out, as you mentioned.
Well, and of course, as we've all heard, if you're not getting enough rest, your stress hormone cortisol goes into effect to protect your body. And then you wake up and you're like, I don't know why I'm not losing this weight. I don't know why I don't feel good. I don't know why I'm so tired. And you've got to look at if you're not getting that crucial rest period and you're not getting into deep sleep, you are going to wake up actually heavier. You are going to wake up not feeling well. And we could talk for hours on nutrition, et cetera, but reducing the amount of alcohol. We've all heard that before. It's hard this time of year. There's parties everywhere. But is to just, is to pace yourself and embrace the fact that get more sleep right now than maybe you would at other times of the year because your body's like, okay, you just put 2 glasses of wine in me. I got to process all this, So I think that's vital for the gals that are listening, and I cannot stress enough make sure you're getting at least 7 hours of sleep per night.
And can you speak, because you did touch on the alcohol, so I'm going to go back to that because that is one that I think that I know I get resistance from with clients is that, the alcohol and really understanding how that does affect us, especially as aging women. Can you speak to that at all?
Oh yeah. Well, uh, just a good example is last Friday night, I went to a party and I probably had a glass and a half of white wine Chardonnay, and my sleep was so interrupted. And I actually woke up probably about 1 in the morning with a raging headache. And I didn't eat enough, and I knew that. I still drank a lot of water, but my body's very sensitive um, to alcohol, so I don't drink very much. But even those that indulge and do enjoy a glass of wine, is pace yourself and make sure you're drinking a lot of water with it, keeping in mind a glass of wine, it has a lot of calories in it, and it does slow down the metabolism. And I don't care who you are, it's going to affect you. I know a lot of people have a high tolerance to alcohol, both men and women. And they always say, well, you got to get in training for it. You got to drink more. And it's like, well, why would I want to do that? you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
But it really does, Allie. It affects especially women because of our hormones. And as we age, if like myself, I do bioidentical hormones, and there is such a delicate, intrinsic, chaotic balance of our hormones in our body. And one little thing that sets it off, and I hate to say it, but you're screwed. And if you have one horrible night's rest and then you follow it, but not by not sleeping well the next night, you're going down the rabbit hole. You're going to spiral, and then it could take several nights before you actually catch back up to where you were. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. We just can't handle, like, our body can handle things, but we aren't as resilient. We just take a lot longer to recover from hard workouts, from a poor night of sleep, from a few extra drinks, from, extra stress. We are very sensitive as we age, and giving ourselves grace and time to, and space to recover from things, and saying no. Like, so many of my clients have mentioned that when they say, no, I don't want that glass of wine, they really get a lot of pushback. So I'm so proud of, many of the women out there that are standing up for the things that they want, but it is hard. There's a lot of pushback when you say, no, I need to get my sleep. No, I don't think I'm going to have a drink. No thanks to the dessert. And anybody that's, wanting the wine, having the dessert, great, fine for you. But for those that are saying no, we need to have people respect our no.
Well, you're absolutely right there, and is to have confidence in your decision. It's your body, it's your house. Take care of it. And someone who is throwing down several cocktails and eating sugar, I guarantee is going to be feeling much worse than you will the next day. And you have to ask yourself, was it worth it? And of course, we've got that wonderful thing called dopamine that goes, oh, this makes me happy for about 10 minutes. And then all of a sudden we're wanting more of whatever it was. So, um, just saying no altogether is just so much easier than succumbing to peer pressure. And those of you that are listening, don't succumb to peer pressure. You don't have to. If you want to walk around with a bottle of water, walk around with a bottle of water. You're going to have more fun because your brain is working better than somebody who, is all liquored up. Just saying.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Would you say that kind of flipping back more onto the fitness arena, would you say that the women's fitness experience is different than men's?
I think it can be. If you look at Pilates or if you look at yoga, which is primarily attended by women, which we need more men in Pilates and yoga classes because that's a different subject of the lack of their flexibility. But I think that when we look now at the franchises like Club Pilates, Yoga Six, et cetera, that there's such a huge shift into studios right now, and especially into franchises. And I know I do some work for Club Pilates, and I have found that I think the reason for that is especially depending on where you are demographically, um, that there is not as much competition. There's more embracing, there's more of, what's the word I'm looking for? There's more of a culture and
Community.
a tribe, that's the word I'm looking for, and I think women love to get together with their gal pals and go take classes together, which you're not gonna see a guy get together with his guy and go, "Hey, let's you and I go to Pilates today." You know? They don't. They'd be like, "Hey, let's go shoot some hoops," you know? That's their bonding. And I think and this is why I personally see these studios are definitely making a dent in the gym business because of it's creating a tribe, and they're brilliant at it. They're doing a great job at it. Does that kinda answer the question a little bit?
Yeah, yeah, and I would agree entirely that women really do, and it's there's so many benefits to that. It's provides accountability, friendship, fellowship. You know, someday you don't want to show up for yourself, but you go because your girlfriend's there. So there's so much going on there that is beneficial and is restorative. Even just the community of like meeting with a friend and oh, we're doing Pilates or you know whatever exercise you're doing instead of sitting over coffee
Yes, yes.
because we're going to do that. We need that, and so finding that friend and that activity is wonderful.
I agree. Agreed. 100%.
What about fitness mistakes? Going back to fitness, are there any mistakes that you see women making, especially in the current environment that we're in with just with fitness now and with social media and all the just the whole fitness world? What are some maybe one or two mistakes that you see gals making that we could correct?
Um, go to classes. Those of you that are listening, that if you're not a trainer, is only attend classes from completely certified, knowledgeable trainers. And I think that Um, for example, I took a bar class, and this was years ago, and she was young. And to her credit, she didn't know any better because she'd only learned the choreography. And we were in a tucked position, which is ludicrous anyway, pulsing for 7 minutes and 32 seconds. And I said, "This is killing my knees." And she goes, "Well, you're kind of old to be doing bar, aren't you?" Yeah, true story. And I think that the problem is you as an unknowing consumer is to ask questions, is what is the education behind. I don't care if it's a personal trainer or it's a group X instructor. And when I hear instructors go, "Yeah, I do this because I get paid to work out," I want to slap them upside across the head. You're in this business
Just
as
so
any other professional, is to help and serve those that are in your class. And I think that because we don't have standardization in our industry, we've just let it go. It's like, "You're cute, you got a cute body, why don't you be a trainer?" Yet you know nothing. And this is what's creating massive, massive amounts of injuries. And especially in bar classes, the whole tucking and pulsing is is the worst you can do for your knees and your back. And I can't even begin to tell you how many friends I have that have gone to bar classes that have really injured themselves. When I created Barre Above as the co-author of that and Barre Above with Pilates, we're the most functional bar program out there because we don't do those movements. Or I can say myself, I don't do those movements, but I can still turn on the music and give a functional class. So the big takeaway I'd say on this, Allie, is buyers beware. Check
Yeah.
out. Do like you wouldn't go to a stranger and go, "Do you mind doing my taxes?" If they're not a licensed accountant,
yeah,
or you're not gonna go to a doctor and go, "Can you do a knee replacement?" "I'm sorry, ma'am, I'm a dentist."
yeah.
But
Well,
I
And I say from
yeah,
this industry, like there's no people don't ask. Like when you sit down with a consult, when I sit down with a client for a consult, they don't ask and because they don't know to ask. So can you maybe delve into that more with our listeners of explaining how this industry works as far as standards, no standards, certification, like just educating our listeners on how it works and why it's a little scary.
Well, first of all, find out, what kind of class interests you. I mean, I can say that, for example, like at Club Pilates, they have to go through arduous 500-hour training, something like that. So you're pretty safe there. Most yoga studios, I would have to say, um, most true yoga instructors have gone through a 5 to 300 hour training, so they're very well educated. One would hope a personal is certified, but I've seen more uneducated personal trainers than I've seen educated personal trainers because they're making their clients do ridiculous things. Um, and I think if you're sitting down with a trainer, they're going to ask you a lot of questions, health questions, then turn it around and say, what's your background? And if they're saying, oh, I'm just, and I won't mention any different types of courses that are out there. Oh, I'm just a such and such, and I did a 1 day online course. Don't walk, run away, because they're not going to know what to do with you. This industry needs to be taken more seriously, and that we as professionals need to we don't need to be doctors, but we certainly need to have an understanding if somebody is coming to us with postpartum, or if they're coming to us with you know a joint replacement, etc. If we don't know, we refer to someone else. And there's certainly those people out there that are extremely well educated, that you want to seek out for your special needs. And if you think about it, a nutritionist, at least in the US, you have to be licensed, as to where we don't have to be licensed in the US as a personal trainer. And I've always said we should be licensed. I am one of those people that stands up for wishing that we had licensure and that you had to go through a very arduous testing protocol in order to deal with someone else's body. But that's long slipped away, sadly.
Well, one of my pet peeves is the influencers on social media that the yeah, might be have a beautiful physique, but just because they it doesn't necessarily mean that they know how to handle your physique. So those are good questions to ask. And lots of us are on social media and we find clients there, and that there's nothing wrong with that. But I certainly encourage any potential client to be asking about my background, because I feel that it's imperative that you are researching anybody that you find, whether it's online or in person. You've got to ask the questions. And just because they look good doesn't you're not just going to go to the doctor because they look good. You want to see that they have got the certification before they get the scalpel on you.
Right.
If you had a wish for our listeners, Leslie, what would it be?
Well, my wish for all of you would be this: is each day is precious because you never know what the future might bring. I've lost a lot of friends this year to cancer, to many different things. And these were people that were relatively healthy, but maybe didn't look at the warning signs, and by then it was kind of too late. So I I feel like sit down and make some realistic goals, some realistic aspirations for 2024, but and get real with yourself. What is it you want out of your life? Because if you can dream it, you can make it happen. And I think that we all have the ability to create affirmations and create the joy, the happiness, the prosperity in our lives. But when we're sick and when we're tired, it's very hard to focus on those dreams, if that makes sense. So my wish for you is to stay healthy, stay happy, and embrace who you are, and you're going to find that many doors will indeed open for you.
I would agree that building a better future starts with being intentional with health today, because so many people will just put it off when I have time. But if and when they have time, they actually are out of time and it's too late.
And I guess my final sentence on that is you deserve happiness. Don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to go to a professional that is going to help you achieve what you want in your life, no matter what that is, whether you're looking for emotional support, physical support, or both. Don't be afraid to ask, because I think we as women sometimes are very afraid to ask for help because we're like, nope, I can do it. You know, I can hold the world up here. But don't be afraid to ask for help. And you'd be surprised again how the doors open.
And my wish would be make fitness fun. Have fun with these bodies. That's my wish.
Yep, absolutely.
Thanks for listening. You'll find me, Alli, on Instagram at Alli Kerr Fitness.
And you'll find me, Shawna, on Instagram at Shawna Kaminski. Feel free to pop us a DM with questions and or feedback. If you're enjoying the Girls Talk Healthy Aging podcast, please subscribe and share it with other health-minded women. Ratings and reviews are also much appreciated and help us get our message out to a larger audience.
Until next time, be healthy and be happy.